Hansen.
One thing I really want to stress is whenever the tractor is moving, there should never be somebody here in this position between the tractor and the trailer. It is way too easy to get body parts caught underneath the tractor and then you get flopped to the ground and get run over. So tractor drivers especially need to make sure there's never anybody here when the tractor is moving. Nobody should be riding on the tongue or anything like that. Everything should be on the side when the tractor is moving. Another safety point I want to stress is that when you're walking alongside the bin trailer, that you got to be watching out for the trailer tire and not get too close to this. That trailer tire will run over your feet and cause big problems too. The driver of the tractor is in charge of the safety of the whole crew, and a lot of things can be saved just by how he deals with things up here in this seat. For example, the tractor driver doesn't drive like this. The tractor driver needs to drive like this, and every once in a while looking forward to make sure he's not running over vines or people or something. But most of his attention needs to be back here on the crew. And if you're not physically able to do that, you really shouldn't be driving the tractor. And if something's going on in the back that you feel you need to stop for, or somebody in the back is yelling to stop, never slam on the brakes. If you're out in the field, you're in soft dirt anyway, if you slam on the brakes, people on the trailer go flying. You're in soft dirt, if you need to stop, just push in on the clutch. The tractor will come to a stop fairly quick, but not the jerk that it does if you slam on the brakes. You slam on the brakes, that's when people get slivers in their hands, that's when people hurt their knees because they get slammed up against the bins. Also, for the tractor driver's information, both when you're in the yard area or out in the field driving, keep the fuel down at the low RPM, so it's just barely idling. The tractor's strong enough to pull it in any gear out in the field, whereas if you rev it up, you'll just burn up more fuel. If you want to go faster and slower out in the field, change gears. Don't rev it up. Except for if you're going to go up over the hump or different things like that, yeah, then you can rev it up. But in the yard area here too, for the most part, just keep the idle down low. And when you're getting off the tractor, just leave the tractor running. Diesel or gasoline is much cheaper than starters, especially at harvest time. We'll just leave them running the whole time for the shift, and you only turn them off at the end of the shift. One of the other things that the tractor driver really needs to take care of is keeping on the right rows. When he begins at his shift, he'll be given a card that'll have a list of rows for him to go down. It's very important that he stay on those rows, partly so that we don't have two tractors going down the same row head on to each other, partly because I'm picking these rows up by stake and segregating them in stake, so we have a very definitive weight and grading off of each stake's assignment. The other thing that we want to do is, because sometimes if you get filled up and you leave a row and it's only a partial row, I've got to know that. So whenever a driver comes back into the yard, he tells me which rows he completed, which ones were partials, and we cross those off, and then he gets a new set of numbers and goes out. And what you want to do is, if you're assigned, for example, row 254, you've got to go down the north side of 254 to pick up the bundles. If you pick up this side, you may, again, going head on against somebody else who's getting this row. Even though the bundles on this row are closer, they don't belong to this row. The bundles for this row are the ones that are farther away, to the north. And so that's something that does confuse people at times, so you always want to be on the north of whatever it says on the end post. Also, when you're on this east 40 acres here driving the tractors, and you've got at least one bin or more in the back of your trailer full of raisins, you can only be going one way. If you're coming uphill, going west on this 40 acres here, you get to this last little part here, there's a sand streak there, and the tires just start spinning. So again, you want to be going one way. You want to be going east on this east 40 acres. And then if you are filled up on the far end, You never want to try and drive up one of these rows, thinking it's shorter than roading it, driving it on the road all the way around back here to the yard area. Drive it on the road back here to the yard area rather than trying to drive up a row, or you'll get stuck. Also, I wanted to make sure that you understood that when you get where you think you are full up with full bins, go ahead and stop in the field where you are and don't pick up any more bundles and come out of the row. Just remember that that was the row you were on. Come back in here to dump and then come back to that row first. If you try and pick up the rest of those bundles and pile them on the back of the trailer, then you just cause people have to handle them twice. It takes longer to do, and then we have to get an extra bin here in the yard area and put them in. It just money ahead, your time ahead, your worker fatigue ahead, just to come out of the row and just remember to go back to that row first to finish. And something else the tractor drivers need to be aware of: when you're turning into a field, turning into a row, you want to sweep as wide as possible. For example, if you're turning into this row right here, you want to put your front tires of the tractor literally so you're almost rubbing up against these vines. And keep them there until your trailer tires pass the end posts over here, and then you swing down where you need to go. If you're swinging into the row this way, you'll need to have somebody run ahead of you and pick up the bundles so that you're not running over the bundles. When you come out of a row, it's a completely different animal. You've got to keep the trailer and tractor dead center to the last possible moment and then start turning, because if you turn too close, too sharp, the trailer will hit the inside end post. But if you swing too wide coming out of a row, the tail end of the trailer will swing over and snap that end post off like a carrot. So again, you stay dead center to the last possible moment, and then you start to turn. Keep in mind, when you've got 4,000 pounds of raisins in the back of that trailer and you're starting to turn, sometimes the tractor doesn't want to turn. It just keeps pushing straight forward. So you've got to use your brakes as well as the steering wheel to help you turn. One of the things we want to do, especially once you've got a full load and you're driving back to the yard area, take a look at the top of all these bins, at least what the inspectors will see. And if you have dirt clods that you can throw off of there, or trash, papers, whatever that might be on there, bird feathers, green grapes, we need to get all that out of there. Green leaves needs to come off the top too. Otherwise the inspectors will ding us for that, maybe even condemn some of our bins. So now I want to show you how to take bins off the trailer. And we're going to pretend like these are full bins of raisins. You come and you unscrew the kickers off the back. And sometimes you have to put a little bit of weight on them. So then after they've pulled the kickers off the back, somebody needs to be up here pulling the trip. And then after they do that, then we'll have people stand on the back running board to help the weight go down so the trailer will tip. And when you're going to be weighting down the back end, you need to stand on the running boards, not back here. If you stand here, you'll be a flat man and ribbon. You'll have 4,000 pounds of raisins coming at you. Then once the bins are down here in this position, those that have weighted down the side running boards can step off, and then the tractor will pull forward. So once the bins have gone off the end of the trailer and you're ready to pull the tractor forward, the driver has to make sure to keep the wheels straight. The tractor and trailer have to go straight and not jackknife, or it'll cause the bins to jackknife at the end and get jammed at the end of the bin trailer. So you need to go straight. So when we're loading up a trailer, an empty trailer with bins, I'm going to pick up 2 bins at a time with the forklift. We'll put the 2 bins on the back of the bin trailer. The workers here will slide it forward till the bins clear the forks. Then I'll raise the forks, then they slide the 2 bins back so that it takes off, then I'll take off the top bin, then they roll that bottom bin all the way to the front. I'll drop the top bin, they roll that one all to the front, and I'll go get 2 more bins. So we want to make sure that these are good and tight, screwed on good and tight. Not super tight, you don't have to really crank them down, but what I don't want is for these bins to slide back and forth. If the bins are able to slide back and forth, then you get people up here that will have a chunk taken out of their thigh or getting fingers pinched when the bins slam together. So you want to make sure those are tightened up. But first and foremost, more important than any amount of raisins or grapes that we ever take off this vineyard is here for the heart of the worker. And it's an offering to the Lord that we're making. But of course it doesn't hurt that we get as many raisins that's out here as possible. I estimate that this year we've got about $800,000 worth of raisins out here in the field. Retail value of raisins, and I'd like to get as many of them put in the bin as possible. I'd also like to have as accident-free as possible, and so we need to take care of these safety precautions as well. But let's get as many of these raisins put in the bin as possible, and also that I hope and pray you all feel the Spirit of the Lord as you serve here in the vineyard this day. Thank you.